Zani has arrived and she means business. In this deep dive guide, we'll break down our kit, go over DPS calculations for builds and resource investment, walk through optimized rotations, and finally, see how she warped the current meta. Let's get into it. Let's start with Zani's passive. Just by existing on the team, any form of Spectral Frazzle instantly gets consumed for its total damage, and replaced with the new effect, Heliocoamber. This stacks up to a much higher cap of 60, and by itself does next to nothing. But the important part is that every stack of Frazzle converted grants Zani Blaze, her secondary forte. Heliocoambers count towards Eternal Radiance proccing requirements, but do not count towards anything related to Frazzle. This means that effects such as Nightmare Ike's damage bonus or Phoebe's signature weapon stacks no longer work. Zani's skill makes her enter a block stance, and when attacked, she uses a follow-up attack. When her forte is full, this skill is empowered, granting a buff that amplifies Zani's Frazzle damage, while also inflicting a single stack of Ember and granting 10 Blaze. This is Zani's only way to both self-generate Blaze and proc Eternal Radiance's set effect, so it is very important to use this in your rotation. This follow-up attack counts as Spectral Frazzle damage, being subject to all the multipliers Frazzle damage would. So how is Forte built? There are two quick ways to do this. Without an intro, use your skill, which leads into basic attack 3. Wait a second to use the follow-up breakthrough, quickly filling up your Forte gauge. With an intro, simply use skill and basic attack 3, and you will be at full Forte. Zani's Liberation is where all of her damage is. This increases her maximum Blaze cap while restoring an equal amount of it, and replaces all of her basic attacks with a powerful 3-part heavy attack combo. This combo consumes Blazes, with the final part of it doing significantly more damage based on how much Blaze it consumes. Her skill is also enhanced, and will now immediately lead into the combo finisher when held, or the equivalent of combo 2 and 3 when successfully blocking an attack. When Blaze is exhausted to 30 or below, you can no longer start a new empowered attack chain, and instead gain access to a second Liberation that deals big damage and freezes time all the same. While the full Forte bar is enough to do the entire 3-part combo twice, there are some loopholes to squeeze out some more damage. As long as you have enough Blaze to start a 3-part combo, you will be able to finish it, even though you won't get much of a damage bonus, if at all, on the combo finisher. This is more efficient and gives you more DPS overall. We'll go over the specifics in the rotation section. Finally, Zani's Ultra deals Frazzle damage to the target, gaining a bonus per Heliocoamber stack. While this bonus may sound like a lot, the base damage is so low that the damage output isn't as crazy as you'd imagine it to be. But in addition to this, Zani's 2 teammates get a 20% Spectral Amplify to targets with Heliocoambers applied, though this is a little awkward as it removes those embers at the same time. In the next section, let's talk about weapons, builds, and resource optimization. The following weapon calculations will be in a team with Phoebe and Shorekeeper, both on their signature weapons. Zani's weapon, Blazing Justice, offers a considerable jump over any opposing option. However, this is the minimum of how good it can be. If you're missing Phoebe's signature weapon, or even Phoebe entirely, this weapon becomes that much more relevant, up to nearly 36% over standard. For those wondering if this weapon has generic value, the 8% defense ignore effect is worth 4.27% damage against level 100 mobs. It's something, but definitely not too much of a game changer. For the other weapons, Rosha's Tragic Comedy is a viable replacement, and 4-star options are a good margin lower than standard. In terms of echo builds, Double Spectro is the preferred build, with Spectral and Attack 3 costs being 2.2% lower total team DPS. If you haven't farmed a good Capitanius yet, Nightmare Ike's is a 3.26% DPS loss. Substats are extremely generic, with crit being the focus, followed by attack percent. Heavy is worth a decent amount, as is flat attack, and other damage bonuses are very negligible. For energy regen, between all of Zani's teams, she doesn't need more than a single line of ER, but this may vary depending on your gameplay. Zani's highest priority skill level is her Forte, followed by her Liberation. Far behind that is her skill, normal attack, and intro. Let's talk about pull value. Because of how closely tied Phoebe's investment is with Zani's power, we'll need to compare sequences and weapons for both of these characters to understand how to prioritize. The following line graph shows the team DPS gain for Zani and Phoebe sequences. While across the board, Zani sequences are worth more than Phoebe's, that doesn't necessarily mean that straight investing into Zani is the play. For example, after Zani's first 2 sequences, it's a larger gain to go for Phoebe's S2 before continuing with more Zani sequences. Here's a table to show the joint combinations of expected value. Feel free to pause the video to take a better look. So, where do their signature weapons stand? Zani's weapon providing a 23% personal damage increase, or a 19% team damage increase, is the obvious first priority investment, as weapons are also cheaper to pull than sequences. But if you already have Tragic Comedy, the relative gain is very similar to that of pulling sequences. Phoebe's signature weapon offers a 6 to 8% team DPS increase over Screen Master and other options, and can be considered over sequences if you don't plan on investing more than a single pity. In the next section, let's go over teams and rotations. First off, let's look at the meta team of Zani, Phoebe, and Shorekeeper. Phoebe is extremely core in any Zani comp due to the massive 100% Frazzle Amplify she grants on outro, on top of generating a ton of blaze via her own Frazzle application. Moonlit Clouds is preferred on Phoebe, offering a 4% damage increase over Eternal Radiance, assuming both characters are equally invested. Let's look at the rotation. Start out on Shorekeeper, doing her basic 1-2-3, swapping to Phoebe. Tap her skill and then hold it to activate Confession mode, swapping back to Shorekeeper. Finish Shorekeeper's usual combo. Basic 1, Forte, Liberation, basic 1-2-3, skill, basic attack, and Forte again, using her echo as you swap out to Phoebe. Use Heron and dodge cancel it, and do her 3-part basic attack combo, instantly dodging as soon as basic 3 starts, while buffering her heavy attack. Cancel this with her Liberation, and then do another basic 1-2-3, dodge canceling it into another heavy. Make sure to let this damage go off before swapping to Zani, or else Phoebe's outro will cancel it. Use Zani's skill and echo immediately, followed by basic attack. Use her enhanced skill, followed by her Liberation. Do her 3-part heavy attack combo, and upon starting the 3rd attack, indicated by this effect on your character. Switch out to Phoebe for a quick basic 1, 2, 3. Switch back to Zani and hold her skill for a second, then release it to use Nightfall, then switch back to Phoebe for another basic 1, 2, 3. Now switch back to Zani again, where we stretch out her remaining blaze to do another full heavy attack combo, finishing off with her second liberation and outroing the Shorekeeper. This rotation maximizes the amount of DPS Zani could put out in her liberation, and has leeway that you can land a counter with her skill and still have enough blaze to start the third Nightfall combo. Next, let's look at a team with both Phoebe and Spectro Rover. Here, we put Phoebe on Moonlit Clouds and Rover on Rejuvenating Glow. Rover will also need to have at least one ER main stat, as we'll need a lot of energy regen to get our second liberation. The goal of this team is to maximize the amount of blaze generated with double Frazzlers to allow for even more Zani DPS during her liberation. Start out on Phoebe, using Heron and swapping out to Rover. Use your liberation, echo, and skill before swapping back to Phoebe. Do Phoebe's combo exactly the same as before. Tap her skill, activate confession mode, and then use her liberation. Do 2 sets of basic 1, 2, 3, dodge, and heavy attack. Because we didn't use an intro here, we will need to do one more basic 1, 2, 3 before we outro to Zani. On Zani, use her echo and skill, followed by basic attack and enhanced skill. Use her liberation and 3-part heavy attack combo, switching out to Rover. Do Rover's 3-part heavy attack combo as well, and then swap out after using your enhanced skill. Do another Zani 3-part combo, swapping back to Rover for a liberation and echo cast. Optionally, swapping to Phoebe to get a couple more hits in. Do one final Zani combo, finishing off with their liberation. Outro to Phoebe, and continue the rotation the same way as the opener, starting at the Phoebe section. What if you don't have Phoebe? Let's look at a rotation with Spectro Rover and Shorekeeper, using Moonlit Clouds on Rover. Start out with Shorekeeper's basic 1, 2, 3 and swap out to Rover. Use your liberation, heavy attack combo, and enhanced skill, switching back to Shorekeeper. Do the rest of her combo as normal. Basic attack, Forte, liberation, basic 1, 2, 3, skill, and echo. One more basic attack, and then swap out on your Forte back to Rover. Dodge cancel Heron and do another heavy attack combo, then use your skill and Forte follow-up, and switch to Zani. Zani's rotation is very typical. Use her echo and skill, basic attack, follow-up skill, and liberation. Then use her 3-part heavy combo, switching out to Rover. Do Rover's 3-part heavy as well, and then another skill and Forte. Switch to Zani for another heavy attack combo, and then switch to Rover for a few basic attacks and another liberation cast. Do not skip these basic attacks, as Zani's heavy combo must resolve before pressing liberation, or you'll consume the blazes and won't be able to start another combo after. Finish off with one final Zani combo into her second liberation. In following rotations, you will only be able to do 2 Zani combos due to not having an extra liberation at the start. So, we've seen the meta, the triple Frazzle, and now the Copium. How do these all compare? Let's check out the DPS numbers in the next section. First, we'll compare Zani's various teams to each other. Both the Phoebe Shorekeeper and Phoebe Rover teams come extremely close, though this Rover team is likely to be weaker in practice, due to it having a tighter rotation, and also expecting Rover to still be doing decent damage, with Blazing Brilliance and good echoes, despite being on Rejuvenating Glow. The team without Phoebe is a huge step below the others, losing about a third of the total damage. Now, how do these numbers compare to the rest of the meta? The previous DPS leader, Carlotta Jojo, was at 60k DPS, so these new Zani teams offer 15% power creep, which is the largest we've seen so far. Though, it is worth noting that Camellia Rocha, previously held at around 56k, has been optimized and has actually slightly passed the Carlotta team at 61k, at the cost of a much more demanding rotation. The previous Phoebe Rover team, before Zani, for reference, remains at the 57k mark. And that concludes this Zani deep dive guide. For a recap of numbers, feel free to check out the text guide or the DPS calculator, link in the description. If you're interested in the process to reach these numbers, check out my live streams where I do everything from counting frames to coding and crunching numbers. I'd also like to give a special shout out to members and all those who've supported me. You guys help me continue what I love doing. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.